Check the description for the following discount codes. I thought with the likes of Acertech now bringing out really high-end direct drive wheelbases in conjunction with Simucube, it would be interesting to see how the original Simucube wheelbases, hold up by comparison. We've got the Simucube Ultimate here, which is their 32 Newton meter wheelbase, and then what this is actually rotating around on is the Simucube Pro 2 just sitting below it, which is a 25 Newton meter wheelbase, and these have both been loaned to me from raceathome.co.uk here in the UK, the makers of the lowrider motion solution for traction loss and surge that you can see in this clip that I'm putting up now. On loan to me from them. The lowrider, as you can see here, does the traction loss, the surge. It can be combined with PT actuator, vertical actuators to give you a full 5 DOF setup like what I've got going on in this clip here. And there will of course be a link in the description should you be interested in any of the products that Race at Home do. So a big thanks to Bob for loaning me not only that system you see there, but these 2 wheelbases for review also. Excuse my slightly croaky throat today. So yeah, what got me thinking was, you can buy the Acertech wheelbases now, and I've got both their offerings over here, they're 2 high-end ones, and they are, by far the smoothest, most refined, and most powerful wheelbases I've used. I have had a little bit of time with these prior to having them here from Bob, but essentially, in my opinion, when you get to a certain level of torque, like 32 Newton meters that this Ultimate has, is just far over and beyond anything that I would need for my sim racing, and probably for most other people too. That's wrist snapping territory. And even the one that is sitting on here, which I'll just show you as well. I mean, they look very, very similar. This has 25 Newton meters, and again, in my opinion, that is more than enough for for sim racing. Now the fit, the finish, the build quality of these is all excellent. They don't look as well presented as the Acertech ones. They've just got that more industrial look about them, function over form, so to speak. They share the same quick release. In fact, let me put up a little clip of the quick release in operation now. Acertech have taken this quick release and refined it by adding just like there's no pin to pull out, basically. You just sort of pinch the little tab at the top and it slides in and out, as you would have seen in my reviews, whereas this one, slots on and you put the pin through. Again, with this, just like the Acertech one, there's no flex or movement in the quick release. It's, it's spot on. No issues there whatsoever. So both these wheelbases, the Pro 2 and the Ultimate, these are really heavy units as well. Share the same quick release mechanism. Now there is no connectivity through these. There's no pins for passing through data or power. They do have a wireless, where's the little aerial? There's a little aerial here somewhere, here it is, that you can screw into the back here, and that will allow wireless connectivity to supported wheels. But of course it doesn't provide power. And here's a close-up of the little pin for the quick release as well that you would slot in and out. How tight this goes in is adjustable as well. You can adjust that by slackening off these screws, putting it in, nipping them up, backing them off a little bit, and then it should be just about perfect. What else do we get with these? Well, let's have a little look at the connections on the back. We've got an accessory port, we've got the emergency stop 6-pin plug, power plug also 6-pin. We have a USB port there, which is of course the old style USB-B, not USB-C, like we would see on more modern offerings. Status LED, and then the little connection for the wireless aerial that we just see. So everything you would need, but again, when we compare it to like the Acertech offerings, they have an inbuilt USB-C not a USB-C hub. Well, it is a USB-C hub. Oh, careful. So you can plug all your accessories straight into the wheelbase rather than having many USB cables running back to a separate hub, maybe, you know, beside your rig or the back of your PC or whatever it might be, which in my case would actually have been useful because I was testing these using this Gomez wheel, which is a USB connected wheel, so it would have been handy to be able to just into the back of the wheelbase, and of course I couldn't. I had to run, you know, a 3 or 5 meter USB extension cable to be able to plug that in, so you can see where having ports in the back would be useful, and you can see why Acertech have done that. Yeah, the emergency stop button you get with the Ultimate is this version here. It has an additional button there, but essentially you push and you twist to release, just like most emergency stop buttons. The one that comes with the Pro 2 is a bit more of a sort of off-the-shelf industrial type emergency stop button. Doesn't have the additional button. It's quite a bit thicker as well, as you can see here. Oh, it's quite a bit bigger overall, in fact. Everything's bigger about it. So yeah, this looks more off the shelf to me, whereas this one, you know, I mean, it's branded Simucube as well, so I'm going to assume it's a custom-made one. Now, I've already mentioned the different torque performances of these wheelbases. The other difference is the slew rate, or the response rate, how fast it can ramp up its torque and ramp it back down again. That will really determine how, you know, your experience feels. And whilst there are figures here on the Simucube website, the Pro 2 is 8 Newton meters per millisecond, and the Ultimate is 9.5 Newton meters per millisecond. Those figures, don't get hung up on these figures. They don't compare directly to the figures from Acertech because they're measured in different ways. So Acertech's website actually has their figures measured their way alongside these being measured in their test facility as well for an A to B comparison. But the bottom line is, for most of us, we're not going to notice any difference in the response times, the slew rates between this wheelbase and this wheelbase, or the Acertech ones, at least not in my experience. Now, I am obviously not a world-class sim racer. I'm a man who enjoys the hobby, enjoys gadgets, enjoys toys, enjoys technology. Maybe if you are the best in the world, you'll notice the difference in the slew rate. But I definitely don't. And again, for me, like I mentioned earlier, the difference in torque, 25 Newton meters to 32 Newton meters, is also not something that I personally would benefit from. And this goes the same with the Acertech offerings as well. I don't run anywhere near that sort of torque. You know, I probably run in the region of 10 to 12 Newton meters maybe. And, you know, when I've reviewed the 8 Newton meter offerings from Fanatic, the CSL-DD, if that's what my budget allowed, that puts out more than enough torque for probably most of us as well. Again, if you're in the elite top 2% of the world and maybe you want that extra torque for whatever reason, then it's there and it's available. But it comes at a hefty price as well. This Ultimate is currently €3,130. Just let that sink in for a minute. €3,130. That is an awful lot of money for just a wheelbase. The Pro 2 is half the price. So this is the one I would recommend should you want to buy this for some reason other than the Acertech offerings, which I don't really see why you would. They have a quick release. They have inbuilt steering wheel connectivity, USB ports, everything just a little bit more refined. But if you wanted a Pro 2 for whatever reason, it's €1,438, both, and 80 cents for whatever reason. So I don't, you know, the Ultimate, I think these days is definitely there's just no reason to buy it, in my opinion, at least not for the average sim racer who doesn't need 32 Newton meters of torque. You'd be more than happy with the 25 that this puts out, and this is much nearer the Acertech prices. In fact, I'm just going to bring up the Acertech prices. And I think in reviews, it's always one of the things we need to do is compare against other offerings for a similar price point, because that's what's relevant, isn't it? When you're looking to buy something, it's like, well, this is $3 and a bit grand. What else can I get for 3 and a bit grand? You know, and how does it compare? So the Invicta wheelbase, they're literally in my face now. The Invicta wheelbase is only £1,160. Can I move this to euros and see what it is in euros? I can, for a better comparison. So in euros, that's 1,303 euros. And that's their 27 Newton meter wheelbase. So 1,300 euros, 27 Newton meters. Or, if we're looking at the Simucube 2 Pro, 1,400 euros for a couple of Newton meters less. And again, without the slightly more refined quick release and the USB ports. And the Asetek stuff has RGB LED strips around it, and you know, other things that just make it a little bit more refined. Their ecosystem, of course, being able to plug, they've, you know, got their own range of wheels that will be coming soon. As a couple already out now. So these wheelbases are, you know, I haven't spoken about the sort of driving experience yet. In fact, I'll put up a clip now of me testing one or the other of these or both of them. But essentially, they are still the smoothest wheelbase I've used. You know, I can't really tell the difference between the Asetek offering and these from a smoothness or responsiveness point of view. Again, maybe if you're in that top 2% of the world, you can, but I definitely can't. All 4 wheelbases, these two and the 2 Asetek ones that I've tested, are ridiculously silky and smooth. There's no cogging, and I say cogging in inverted commas because it's not, there's no cogs inside these, they're direct drive. It's just kind of the magnetic, as it goes from past one magnet to the other, you can sometimes feel that sort of changeover on some wheelbases, but with these, you can't, you know, even with no power to them, you can maybe just feel as they pass around, but you know, in use, they're just super smooth, as are the Asetek ones. Responsiveness is just bang on. Again, these and the Asetek, I can't really tell a difference, but then Asetek is making their wheels in conjunction with Simucube, so that's kind of what we expect, isn't it? All the detail in the force feedback is there as we would expect it to be. Everything's represented, everything comes back through the wheel as it should. Your textures, your cambers, you know, front wheel drive, torque, steer, when you lose traction and the wheel goes light, when you go over rumble strips, all that information, all that detail was there. And it is you know, it's a second to none driving experience across both the Simucube and the Asetek. You know, wheelbases. Will from Boosted Media said the Asetek ones were the best he'd ever used. I mean, he's probably quite a level up from me when it comes to his driving skill, because I'm more of a rally guy anyway. So maybe he can tell the difference between these Simucube ones and the slightly more refined Asetek ones. But for me, and probably for most of you guys, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. The driving experience is just going to be bang on, you know, and you're going to have no complaints whatsoever. Software-wise, the, what was it called? Drive something? Sim Drive? Oh, I can't remember what the bloody hell it was called now. True Drive, Simucube True Drive. The software is definitely not as refined as, you know, even the Fanatic stuff, but certainly not the Asetek. It's a little bit more clunky. You have to go to their wiki page to download it. You can't get it directly from their website, which I find a little strange. Not a big deal, just follow the link and it's there and you get it down. Had to do a firmware update once I got these plugged in and loaded the software up. Had to create a offline profile and set that up. There is a myriad of, I won't go into, you know, software tutorials, but there's a myriad of adjustability and options there to tweak these how you want them to be. So for those of you that like to tweak, you definitely can. And again, this is, you know, there's lots of reviews of these out there already. This really is a look now that there are other options, you know, that actually use Simucube technology, which is the Asetek, to see whether it's, you know, worth picking these up or whether you should really go straight for the Asetek stuff. And for me, I would just go straight for the Asetek, and I wouldn't even go for their Invicta one because I don't need 27 Newton meters of torque either. I would go for the 18 Newton meter Forte one, which is cheaper and still has plenty of torque for most of us. You know, I can't speak for everybody, but certainly for me. But But yeah, other things to talk about with this, the mounting options. These are both front mount, so you use the 4 holes at the front there. They come with all the necessary bolts to do that. They also come with, you know, the quick release you see there, and a couple of other little plates and nuts and bolts to enable you to use that. Which means when you see in the clip that I put up, I'm using it on my DT Amiga Prime, which is the rig I say is probably the rig that the last rig most people will ever need, because it's really well priced, it's super solid, and it had no problem handling either of these wheelbases or the Acertec ones. I tested those on there as well. I tested the Acertec ones using the standard sort of flat wheel deck, and these ones I asked DT Amiga to send over their front mount because I couldn't mount these to the plate normally because they don't have any fittings underneath. That's another thing actually that the Acertec ones do have, is fittings underneath. They have T-nuts, 4 T-nuts installed in the bottom, so you can use those, or you can obviously mount it at the front like you would these, but nice to have both options. And this is the thing, you know, like I say, you got to compare this offering against what else is available, and you can really see where Acertec have gone, okay, these are great, they perform excellent, everyone loves them, let's take that and let's kind of just evolve it and refine it a little bit, and that's what they've done. So it'd be interesting to see what Simucube do now with regards to wheelbases, whether they just stay in conjunction with Acertec or whether they bring out their own sort of more refined and up-to-date wheelbases. Who knows? Power supplies for these bad boys. In fact, this is ridiculous. Where's the... literally right in front of my monitor. This one, for the Ultimate, is a whacking great power supply. Puts out 1,000 watts, which is just ridiculous. Huge amounts of power, but, you know, it's a beefy wheelbase, so you've got to get it from somewhere. The power supply for the Simucube 2 Pro is 450 watt peak, and is a much more normal size power supply with a plastic housing. This one is of course metal, you can probably see that. But yeah, I've never seen anything quite like it. Huge great power supply. But, you know, I suppose in conclusion really, both of these wheelbases are still excellent wheelbases from a driving perspective in 2023, even if they do lack some of the refinement, conveniences, options and functionality that we now have available from other manufacturers like Acertec. So if you're looking to buy new, I probably wouldn't recommend buying these because your money is better spent on the Acertec offerings, in my opinion. If you're picking them up second-hand at a great price, absolutely go for it. You know, they're still, from a driving point of view, which is really what's the most important thing, everything else can be worked around. USB ports, mounting options, wireless options, that can all be worked around. From a driving point of view, in my opinion, they still drive just as well as they always did and are still very much top of the tree when it comes to the driving experience. So yeah, thanks once again to Bob from Race at Home for loaning me those. There will be a link to the Simucube website if you want to go and take a look, even though, as I say, better off hopping over to the Acertec website and getting their options, in my opinion. So they'll both be in the description, as will be a link to Race at Home, should you want to go and take a look at their motion offerings. They also sell VR headsets from Pimax. I've got the Pimax Crystal on its way, actually, speaking of VR headsets. And I'll also be doing a sort of 6-month in review look at the Pico 4, because I've been sent one of those. I already have one that I bought. And I thought it'd be interesting to compare if things have changed, because there was a lot of quality control issues, shall we say, at release. So it'll be interesting to see whether this new one that's arrived shows any of those issues or differs in any way to the one that I had before, along with the most recent software that they've supplied and everything else. So anyway, slightly sidetracked. More videos to come on VR headsets, at least 2. I will be doing a review of this Gomez wheel as well, also on loan from Race at Home. And I think I've still got the Mecha handbrake to do a review of. But anyway, I'm waffling on. Yes, as always, thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.